welcome to Amphlett Reviews, and today we have a Hong Kong content review currently downstairs at the moment. We're talking about In the Line of Duty 3, the brand new EUREKA release that I've done 3 and 4 sort of back to back on the same day, and I finally managed to get my copy on number 3 and number 4 recently in the post from Amazon. Very happy that both these films sold out surprisingly pretty quickly than I expected. Third one was completely off sale the second day it was released on the 21st of this month, and that gives me a lot of praise that the film is pretty fun, pretty exciting, and I really wanted to dive back into these movies. I really enjoyed my time with Yes Madam and Royal War. Choyo, stepping aside from the action genre, doing a semi-retirement from acting in general, the franchise is still left open for a new leading female action star to take over the reins of the franchise, with Yes Madam and Royal Boys doing so well in the box office, making big money, and promoting this new wave of kind of during the 80s called the Girls with Guns kind of series. Female-led action stars, martial arts, singers, anyone for the taking can really take over this franchise, and we have a new star within this kind of franchise. The producers and the creators got it together and found a new first-time actress coming together, which is Cynthia, an actress that I'm not fully familiar with, but she's gone on to take over the franchise completely with In Line of Duty 3, In Line of Duty 4, where she plays the same character again. She's done also number 5, number 6, and also did a crossover within Tiger Cage 2, playing the same character, and she's going to do variations of the same type of movie with another kind of spin-off kind of movie, similar kind of titles, involving Yes Madam or Madam Hunter or something along those lines. And the edition that EUREKA put out pretty solid. I really like the kind of the colour schemes they've gone for in terms of the entire series. The fourth one's got the kind of the blue, Royal Warriors had orange, kind of an orangey kind of teal colour, and then the first one was very much a green, so it looks really nice on the shelf. I quite like the artwork. I know some people have reservations on the artwork itself and prefer the original, but the good thing is that you can reverse the artwork back and do it to the original posters, which I definitely like to do in terms of choices, and absolutely for sure. But I do like the colour schemes, I do like the artwork. A brand new kind of artwork looks pretty solid. I do like the new 2K scan they've done for the edition, looks pretty solid. I don't know how this film used to look back on the old DVD sets and VHSs, but I definitely imagine this definitely is a big step up. I don't think it's got this kind of level of treatment compared to when it was first released on VHS. I do wish the extras a little better on this. There is some good audio commentaries which are very funny and very insightful. The booklet you do get with the edition, I think, is always a highlight for me. I always like reading the booklet and giving a bit more of an insight into what was going on during the time and what the producer was thinking and why this film was made, and any kind of decision making behind the scenes. But apart from that, there's not much extras. There is a theatrical trailer, a teaser trailer. That's about it. But the main thing for this edition is the actual film, is the brand new 2K scan, and of course you do get that alternative artwork, which is also really nice to have that. So without further ado, let's dive into In Line of Duty number 3.
This is Hiroshi Futioka. He's been sent over here to Hong Kong.
It's not police work, it's political activity.
In Line of Duty 3 was released in 1988, directed by 2 directors, Arthur Wong and Bradley Young, which is 2 directors that have not really gone on to do much since past this film. I looked at a quick look on IMDb. Very few and far between releases from 1988 all the way to modern day. Just a couple of movies in between both their names. I think they just didn't take off in the kind of the industry, or maybe they were more into acting, I think. So regardless of what happened, they did a pretty excellent job with this film. I think they did a really, really good job overall. One of the things I find quite funny about the title for these kind of movies, the reason why they call this the In Line of Duty kind of series, or In Line of Duty 3, is because they kind of give it a name for the more international market, to kind of tie these films together. It's funny, on the kind of the intro for the film is actually called Royal Madam 3 Male and Female Thieves, which I find is a really interesting title, and I would have liked to have seen that as an alternative kind of poster artwork instead, for sure. But I have done a little bit of research into some of the different names. They also released as Force of the Dragon in the UK. Another title is called Action Force 3 as well. The series this time around goes more of a consisting, more kind of returning character kind of base work within 3, 4 and 5 and 6 from my understanding, and obviously returning to do a cameo or crossover kind of performance within kind of Tiger Cage 2, which I find very fascinating. I find very exciting when little things like that I don't really realise. My initial reservations and what this film's going to offer, and I didn't know much about what the other story was or who Cynthia was. I wasn't fully familiar with her kind of performances or her action kind of history in the sense of in the Hong Kong industry. But I gotta say, I am pleasantly surprised as a kind of performance. pretty solid as an action, carrying the film. Also pretty awesome. She does a really good job of handling herself, definitely flying in the air with some of the fight moves and some of the definitely a lot more kind of heavy gunplay this time around compared to some of the first two entries. Maybe the fighting isn't as strong compared to Michelle Yeoh, which is pretty unfair comparison, I would say, on my behalf. But as far as a kind of first leading actress, first time actress coming in, very similar to kind of Black Cat. It kind of gives me that kind of vibes of Black Cat. Someone who's coming in, who's doing a movie, also funny enough with D&D Films, who produced this one as well, and I think did do the first two movies as well, D&D Film. The storyline for the In Line No Duty is pretty simple. It's set between two locations, one within kind of Japan to Tokyo, and one within the Hong Kong, and both stories getting kind of intertwined within two international thieves that are basically stealing kind of high value items, jewelry, to kind of fund the Red Army. They kind of are very much kind of dedicated to the cause. They are specialist thieves. They do not care about innocent civilians, innocent bystanders. There's a lot of high body count and a lot of collateral damage that happens in this film, especially within the opening fantastic kind of visual portion sequence set within Japan, and they kind of steal kind of a gallery performance, and they kind of storm in with machine guns and smoke grenades, and they just kind of cake out so many kind of people, not just innocent bystanders but also cops as well. This leads to kind of our secondary main character, the hero Fukishi Konaka, which I hope I said that incorrectly. Again, not hugely familiar with the actor, and looking at his IMDb list, I'm not really familiar with his other films that he has released. I think there's been one or two that have got a kind of 101 release on the UK, kind of straight to DVD kind of movie. There's a personal vendetta against these kind of male and female thieves in the film, which he goes to Hong Kong to basically track them down and to kind of kill them from his partner's death. And we also have our main leading actress, Cynthia, which basically is a kind of hard-head new recruit in the police force. She wants to prove herself. She does during the start of the film, which is a great action set piece, kind of introduce her with her kind of uniform, which I believe is on the kind of poster of the very great opening action set piece, where she kind of takes out some low-life kind of thieves, and she's promoted to a special task force which is dedicated to take out basically international thieves or thieves in general kind of thing. Very specific task force, which the supervisor of that task force is the uncle, which basically doesn't want her to be on dangerous streets, doesn't want her involved in trying to force her to quit or trying to undermine her and not give her assignments. And there's some pretty fun exchanges back and forth between those two characters, being the fact that she's the niece and he's the uncle, and it's kind of nice. It's just kind of nice little banter. It's a bit of fun. Kind of reminds me of the kind of Police Story kind of uncle Jackie Chan kind of relationship a little bit, and the comedy is nice. It's pretty fun. I would say the comedy in the film also is pretty goddamn funny. It's very few and far between in the film, but when it does happen, I surprised myself. I was laughing quite a few times, just on some of the action set pieces and with some of the kind of action cues. The one specifically when he kind of jumps on a car, he catches on the tire end of it, and it just happens to be a display sign. That was really, really funny. So the comedy is pretty solid. You do also get two random cameos from the Lucky Star characters that just appear in the film for literally 5 seconds. I'm not sure why. Maybe it's just a favour. Just is traditional kind of Hong Kong kick-ass action, gunfights and martial art kind of street fights, and very dirty, very grimy kind of back and forth exchanges within the kind of the villains and the kind of the hero characters, and it's very classic kind of Hong Kong movies. It's just a lot of fun. I'm surprised how much fun I had with the film. I'm surprised how much is packed into this very tight 84-minute film. There's a lot going on. Very little downtime, and when there is, it's just actually just good banter, or it's something to kind of progress the story forward. I think the villains are really fleshed out. I like the fact they are a couple who have got a very specific mission and kind of funding the Red Army, and their goals are very specific, and the traditional kind of typical villains where they want revenge, and they get cheated because the jewelry they've stolen is fake, and there's some characters in between they kind of getting in the way, and I kind of like the exchange overall between all the initial characters. They're all really fun, and the film definitely turns the dial up to 11 between the end of the second act into the third act, which is just non-stop action, just a lot of escalation. A lot of escalation happens in the film with constant action set pieces and explosions and all our gun chase sequences and just small encounter fights, which it just goes from place to place to place, which is great. It's exactly what you want to see, and that third act is completely insane. It is, and this one's quite consistent from start to finish. It doesn't kind of mess around with love interest. It doesn't kind of waste your time. You're here for the action. I was surprised the Japanese cop just sort of vanishes towards the third act of the film. He's in it for a good portion. His kind of character is set up revenging the kind of his death of his partner, and he comes to Hong Kong and he has a really cool altercations and good fight scenes between a very 80s nightclub sequence, which is just really funny. The scores, some of the music choices is very kind of cheesy and very typical 80s kind of cop thriller. Basically, his arc is just kind of cut short towards the kind of the third act. He just kind of vanishes. I won't say too much what happens to his character, but he's just no longer in the film. I don't know if there was a contract dispute, whether he was sent back to make another movie, or there was a falling out behind the scenes. I don't know what happened, or maybe it was a producer's choice. Maybe they wanted a female-led action, finale with Cynthia Conn's between the two kind of thief characters. So overall, In Line of Duty 3, or Royal Madam, 3 male and female thieves. Man, what a title. It is a pretty entertaining package from start to. It's nice to have a bit more range of movies, and these kind of companies taking more risk and more chances on the Hong Kong market. And it's good for myself who haven't seen these films, who don't have access to the old DVDs or the old scans, or never watched them back in the heyday when they were released on VHS or in cinemas for the rare kind of occasions. So I really enjoyed my time with it. I didn't know what to expect. I got a really entertaining film overall that definitely follows the same lineup as the first two movies. Definitely got a decent budget behind it. The escalation's great, the action's great, fight scenes are fun. If you want blood-soaked kind of action, bystanders, grenades and smoke bombs and machine guns, you're gonna have a really fun time with this. The comedy is just right. It kind of doesn't overstay its welcome. It's played to the right level, and the main leading actress, Miss Cynthia Conn, does a really fantastic job of carrying this movie and really kind of demonstrating her performance piece, her action side, and just does a great job overall. Villains are great also. I like their motivation. I think that it's great that they're a couple, and their kind of motivation throughout the film is pretty clear and works for a kind of nice, typical kind of 80s Hong Kong thriller action movie. That's been my review, guys. What are your thoughts on opinions in Line of Duty 3? Please comment down below. What are your thoughts on Cynthia Conn's kind of, legacy within Hong Kong action movies? What are your thoughts and opinions on her kind of going forward? Is In Line of Duty 5 and 6? Is it pretty good? Is it worth kind of tracking down? So anytime, guys, I'm through reviews. Signing out.